Hello, guys. I decided to do this quickly. Nothing major. But I gotta say it. The American public, the people in America, I believe they have battered wife syndrome. Why do I say this? I want you to think back. The American government lied to us over and over again. They lied to us at the Gulf of Tonkin incident. They've lied to us nonstop. American people use the excuse, well, that was a few years ago. 20 years ago, they lied to us. Okay. And they've been lying to us throughout the entire 20 years. This is something. Oh, by the way, just to start off with this, everything on here is my opinion based on shit I've seen. And it's the way I see crap. Okay? So, like I was saying, the American people, they have literally got battered wife syndrome. Because every time they hear something like WMDs in Afghanistan or Iraq, not Afghanistan, but every time they hear something like that, oh, yes, believe the media, believe the hype, believe the bullshit, and forget what things are really about, which is generally the United States government stuck their nose somewhere, caused something to happen, did something, and went in there for other reasons, lying to the American public. Got news for you, we're being lied to again. Like it or not, the war over in Ukraine has been going on for 8 fucking years. The only difference is Russia decided they were tired of seeing Russian speaking people who believe that they have the right to speak their native language and have their own little traditions without being arrested or assaulted or abused. So they fought back for 8 years. Russia finally said, hey, you're shelling these people to death, committing a genocide, and some of your soldiers there are carrying swastikas. And if you go all the way back to World War II, due to the fact that that is where Germany invaded Russia from, I'm not going to get too far into it, they might have a little bit of a reason to actually worry about those types of things. Zelensky goes to a peace talk meeting, and one of his peace talk guys, who's actually for implementing the Minsk Accords, or says something like maybe we have to actually cave into some of the Russians' demands, like security for their own well-being. I mean, I'm sorry, but if I were to walk to your house and point a gun at your face and say, but I'm not really going to shoot you, it's just for their protection, while some mailman standing next to me, you might feel a little threatened. In this case, it was bombs and missiles right on the border. Like it or not, the border of Russia, the border of Ukraine are right on top of each other due to the fact that they're right next to each other. So when you have NATO, a actual country that actually is designed, or not a country, sorry, a organization that is actually designed to attack Russia, which its main thing, if you actually go back to the beginning of it, is to thwart Russia, to go after Russia. Okay? Russia considers NATO a enemy. So if all this is happening and you're threatening Russia, what do you think is going to happen? On top of that, you have a war that's been going on in the Donbass region and the breakaway states for 8 fucking years. I don't care what you want to call it. People have been getting murdered there. Russia finally stepped in. When a country like the United States and Ukraine both vote against a bill that says to be against Nazis in the United Nations. I don't give a fuck what your reasons are at that point. You are a country. You should have sustained, not voted against it. Voting against it shows that you're for Nazism, especially when some of your troops in the country, like in your Ukraine's case, actually have Nazis. When certain members of the government are actual Nazis. When somebody like the peace guy that I was mentioning earlier gets his brain blown off because he was going against what the Nazi regime there actually wants. So having someone who's Jewish with a gun to his head, figuratively and possibly literally speaking by a Nazi, might actually mean that Lazinski doesn't have any real power. If you actually remember in the beginning, he actually wanted to admit the Minsk Accords, which both the United Nations, the U.S., and the Nazi regime there said no to, and that's when he changed it. If you go back to when he was first being elected and try to implement that, which would have made Russia happy, pissed off the US and NATO, and made everything peaceful. And he has damn good fear of being overthrown by these guys because in 2014, with the US backing them, they already overthrew one of the legitimate Ukrainian presidents. Just saying, this has already happened, but I guess 8 years ago is a little too long. Oh, and I guess the United States wouldn't do anything bad. I mean, you could just ask, the WMDs about lying to the American people, burn pits in Afghanistan or Iraq for any of you guys that are ex military and what they do to their own soldiers with that stuff. Oh, not to mention, just a month ago, what came out in Hawaii, where the military's polluting the water, so that the United States government could save money, not only poisoning civilians, but our own troops, and then hiding it for a while. Yeah, polluting it because they were trying to save money by saving, all that. So saying that the U.S. wouldn't do that, I mean, we did carry slaves at one point. Oh wait, we still do if you count, the fact that you're legally allowed to have slaves in, prisons are actually a slave thing. If you look at the 14th Amendment, it is the one exception to that rule. Oh, and don't forget all the people that the CIA bought and put in Guantanamo Bay. How about the simple fact that there was actually a set of rules set aside that states that any American company has to follow some basic set of human rights laws that we've been enforcing for the last 50, 60 years, or supposed to. But even though we had that down, our thing a few months ago allowed chocolate factories to still use slaves as long as they were in the United States, like they do in Africa when they actually force people to pick cocoa beans, little children, by the way. So, saying our government won't do anything bad, I mean, just ask the Native Americans. You know, just ask a Native American how good our country is. The fact that we actually made a promise to Russia, although I will state this, Russia, are you stupid? Look at all the treaties we broke. I mean, Iran, Native Americans. Look what our treaties did for them. So asking Russia to have a treaty saying that NATO and the U.S. wouldn't go is kind of stupid. But then again, trusting us to just keep our word is also kind of stupid. The fact that you have all these Americans protesting for Ukraine shows me that they either don't understand the actual facts And going out and threatening people tells me that the United States average citizen is mentally challenged. Yes, I'm saying it, they're battered. But back to the original part. Why are American people battered wife syndrome? Because if you actually look at an American and then you compare it to someone who is like a battered wife who goes back after being lied to 1,000 times when he goes, I'm sorry. When a husband beats on his wife and he goes, I'm sorry. I just sometimes can't control myself. I don't really mean it, or some shit, or I'll never do it again. And then he does it again. Okay. Maybe not right away. Maybe he waits a week, maybe a day, beats his wife, says he's sorry, does it again and again and again. That's why America has the battered wife syndrome. Because you know what? We get lied to. Oh, WMDs, all this stuff in the past, and they continue to do it. And guess what, folks? They're doing it again. You just got the wool pulled over your eyes again because you have this thing where, oh, the United States wouldn't do it. Guess what? They did it again. And a year from now, 2 years from now, you're going to go, oh, but they won't do it again. There's your American public. That's your American people. Battered wife syndrome. Sailing Prepper signing out. Have a good night.